This is William del Pilar, and this is Points on the Board. And I'm here with my partner, Big John, and we got a fast-paced show today. Big John, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, William, and I know we say a fast pace, which is antithetical to a big dude like me, but I'll give it my best shot today.
I guess you would be the tortoise to my hair.
There you go. There you go.
Of course, you're a pretty big tortoise.
Yeah.
You're a sea turtle. How's that? Have you ever seen a sea turtle, John?
Not at all. No.
Massive. Man, the older ones, few hundred. I'm a diver.
Yeah.
I've had the God's given luck to have seen this. And John, I saw one in Indonesia. I could sit there and gone like this, from
Right.
arm length to arm length. And I would have been probably just as long, but that arm length to arm length was circular. I could have gone circular.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can't touch him, but it was Indonesia. I couldn't. Yeah, but anyway, we got a great show tonight. We're going to talk a little old and new news, catch the people up on everything from Matthew Stafford to, I'm sorry, not Matthew Stafford, but we're going to catch you up on Deshaun Watson. How do you say it? Aqib Talib, right?
Aqib Talib, yep.
It's a spelling. There's no U in that spelling. So it gets me sometimes, We're going to talk about the police blotter, catch you up on the police blotter, and we're going to talk a little bit about the FanEx draft. Big John's going to tell us a little bit about the very first fantasy football experts league that's still going today. And I'm glad to see it going today. A little disappointed it could have been a little bit bigger than what it should be. But lots of good stuff. A couple of goodbyes to some stalwart people, some well-known people, and then we'll call it a wrap.
All right.
And it'll be next time.
Let's do it.
So let's do it here, Big John. Let's start with the police blotter. Alvin Kamara, his trial has been delayed.
Yeah.
It looks like he's going to play the full season. First, John, your football take in terms of your regular football analysis, but a little bit of the fantasy side. But what's this? This kind of bugs me. It's like, to me, there's no reason for this delay. It seems as a society we get more mucked up in terms of playing games. And now the judicial system, it's always been involved, but it just seems to be part of this new world of chaos we're in. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if it's chaos so much as it's the legal system, right? So from what I understand, Kamara and some friends, they got brought up on charges of DUI, assault, battery, things like that. So this happened February. Their trial has been delayed twice. Now, in both times, the defense requested more time to get its facts and its case together, which were granted by a judge. So it's not like something weird is happening. This is part of the legal process. Anyone who's had to go through this understands you might be in a rush to get justice. The law allows both sides to a certain amount of time and a certain amount of retries, if you want to think of it that way. Usually it's 3. To get their case together. So, it is what it is,
I could just see the lawyer. So we delayed it twice. We got one more delay.
Yeah. And
are you looking to avoid the 2023, get it delayed so you can play through 2023? I mean,
maybe I'm trying to be realistic about it, right? On the one hand, I don't think it's an automatic case of preference. On the other hand, is the timing preferable to the Saints and to Kamara? Absolutely. So I don't try to conspiratorialize, if that's a word, everything. In this particular case, it's the legal process.
Right. And I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, right.
The system. They're gaming the system, but they're not doing any shenanigans or anything illegal or unethical. This is what lawyers do. This is what good lawyers do.
Yes.
This is a good lawyer you got. Now, football, though. And real quick, I guess my issue is just the whole judicial system. It's just become this whole bogged down machine. And it only hurts us. It helps the rich still because they can afford the money with the fees and the time, et cetera, et cetera. Poor people got to get back to work. They got to get a lawyer. So I guess that's where I'm coming from. And it just gets old. Right. But that said, I don't fault Kamara. He's doing what's right. Football-wise, what does this mean for the Saints?
Oh, nothing could be better for the Saints. Whether you're talking about NFL, whether you're talking about fantasy. What it means is Kamara's been able to be at camp. He's been in practice. That means they can count on him for 2023 season more and more likely. Like there's an outside chance something may happen towards the end of the 23 season, but it's becoming less and less probable. Looks like 2023 and the 2023 postseason is definitely available for Kamara and the Saints. From a fantasy perspective, yep, put Kamara right back up in those top 3, top 4 running backs, maybe top 10 overall players, period. He's healthy. He's going to play. That uncertainty is gone. Another reason why, William, like we said last episode, you wait as long as possible to conduct your league draft, to the extent that you can. Kamara is one of the better, if not preferable, running backs in fantasy and in the NFL. So from what could be better for the Saints? This worked out perfectly, other than an outright acquittal. And if you read a lot of articles, there's not 100% consensus that Kamara is actually guilty of anything. A good lawyer could probably get him off, although that remains to be played out in court.
Well, John,
yeah,
this was in Vegas. What are the odds this is on surveillance somewhere? So
right.
I've heard somebody say that too, and I don't argue it because I'm like, yeah, that's true, except this is Vegas. The odds of surveillance being somewhere is probably high. So I'm sure that lawyers grill Kamara. We can't play games here because if you say one thing and they get it on video, not only are you screwed in court,
yeah,
but you're screwed with the NFL and how much longer. Okay, the final question on this before we move on. The speculation is a 6-game suspension. I was reading up. It was pretty violent beatdown of the guy. Destroyed his orbital eye, something like that. He's messed up. And man, I don't know if it's a viciousness or maybe I'm looking at it differently. But 6 games, let's say it turns out to be true. He was responsible. Wow, is 6 games enough of a punishment for something like that?
I over the years, my beliefs have morphed to, if there was no crime, the NFL shouldn't punish anybody. And that's been my position. And some people might say, well, what about sexual misconduct, things like that? I go, look, at the end of the day, you're always going to have these arguments. You're always going to have these debates. So you know how you quash all that? You say, we'll punish him when the law punishes him. If the law doesn't punish him, why should we punish him? Let's assume there's a civil case where Kamara's ordered to pay $100 million to this guy. Let's assume he's found culpable. That's his punishment, paying $100 million. It's like, paying $100 million and losing your ability to earn another $100 million doesn't make sense to me. Your punishment is you pay $100 million. That's why we have punishment. You commit a wrongdoing or a crime. You're meted out punishment. Now we're even. Paying a fine, serving time is how you break even. It's not like you do your time and then you still owe society.
No, you are correct. And we've had this conversation offline. Yeah. And I agree with that 100%. And my friends, that's a libertarian then, John. And I agree with them. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
As I learned standing in front of the captain of my command one day, getting chewed out, Petty Officer Del Pilar, there is perception and there is truth.
Sure.
And NFL runs on perception. They want to be seen a certain way. Why? It generates hundreds of more millions in sales. And that's why they do what they do. I disagree with it. In a sense, I'm with John. Look, let him play until he is convicted or found guilty. Why are you punishing him? The courts didn't find him. I'm on the same page. However, again, perception versus reality. So even though I don't agree with it, it's a private business technically, so they can do that. And as a society, we've come to look at that's the way the NFL is. But John, I think they could go to your belief and my belief if they did it consistently. Eventually, the people would go, well, yeah, they're not going to punish him because he has to have his day in court. Not only could they help in educating us into the American system and looking at the American system as being at fault when they let players off or maybe give him too heavy a punishment, it would take all the burden off the NFL.
But at the same time, William, I agree with you. But how would the NFL know? You said it's to make dollars. Very simple. If Saints fans stop buying number 41 jerseys, if Deshaun Watson being on the Browns causes home ticket sales to drop by 50%, that's how they'll know that, hey, we're not going to tolerate this players of this behavior. That is the proper feedback loop. It's not for the NFL to guess what people want. Now, and here's a dirty...
John, I don't mean to stop you, but it's a private business. They can do whatever they want in guessing.
Agreed. They're sort of a private business, right? Because they're still very much regulated, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like, so I understand that. But the truth of the matter is a lot of big corporations don't wait to see if their business, and again, they have the right to do so, but I disagree with this policy. It's like when you hear someone's been canceled for using the wrong language, right? people don't wait to see what happens to their advertisers. The famous case is Married with Children, when that woman in wherever she was, Minnesota or Michigan, Terry Ricolta, went after Married with Children, right? She said, I'm writing all your sponsors because this is a disgusting show,
that.
right? And all these initial sponsors bailed out. They didn't even wait a week. They all just bailed out. What happened? Married with Children was so hot that the producer said, F those sponsors. We're going to charge double for people who stay with us because we're that good.
You know, Rush
you know what
Limbaugh
happened?
did that.
You know what happened? Rush Limbaugh's another guy like who did that when he was.
What happened?
The rates went up. People loved them. Their ratings went up. It was the exact opposite. And if nothing else, that lady, in her own stupid way, actually gave them free publicity. So the NFL, in my opinion, absolutely, or any individual team, if you see that your ticket sales go down, absolutely, cut the guy. He's a business loss for you.
Well, hold on, and then we got to move on. He's also a great player for them.
That's where the balance comes in, right? Each individual team. Like, listen, Alvin Kamara, he's the Saints offense for the most part, right? They're going to have a different standard for him. What was it that Jimmy Johnson used to say? Hey, why does Emmitt Smith get to come in late and not practice as hard? Hey, when you're Emmitt Smith, you could do the same thing, right? Right?
No. I agree. I agree. And point taken. And speaking of Jimmy Johnson, boy, that guy is a greedy old man right now. He's only going to show up for in studio work when they have a doubleheader game on Fox. I mean, it's like, I want to retire. I don't want to do this anymore, but that check is just too fat, too big, and too green.
All right. Hey, I wish we could get to that point, man. Why not?
So let's move on to a player who's no longer in the league. And the reason I wanted to bring him up is, again, we're so living in such a chaotic society. Sure. We live in this, and the audience needs to know, society doesn't care about you when push comes to shove. Case in point, Rolando McClain, former Cowboys linebacker. If I'm correct, Alabama stud, won the Jack Lambert Award, Dick Butkus Awards in 2009, and helped lead the tie to a BCS title. Got involved in drugs. He's out of the league. He was just arrested on gun and drug charges not too long ago. This is a little bit old, but I still think it's very newsworthy. You know, he was asked to step out of the car after being stopped. He's like, "Whoa, dude, got a gun in the car." You know, you already have all these other issues.
By the way, very smart of him.
Yes, very, very smart.
Very smart of him.
You know, I always tell my Latino and Black friends, our cultures are different when a cop comes to a car. It's defensive, it's hate rage filled because you're being stopped. You got all the stereotypes. And I'd always ask, you know, just get out the car. Every time I had been stopped in my youth, and I should have been hauled to jail a couple of times when I was on the passenger side.
Right.
And thank God the cop had some patience. And my friend was Black, and my friends were telling me, "Shut up, Big Bob, shut up," you know. And so very smart, very smart. And I'm glad you said that because most people wouldn't even think about that. But that out of that whole stop, that's probably the most important thing he did. So he was charged with possession of a concealed weapon without a permit, unlawful possession of marijuana, and speeding. And this isn't the first time. It happened in 2017, indefinite suspension in 2016, you know, reinstated eventually. You know, he started to float around the league. Then the Raiders released him in 2013, signed with the Ravens, and had more run-ins. And I just think it's a sad case. I mean, his football career is over, but this is where I look at the NFLPA more than I do the NFL. And what I try to tell people based off what's actually happened is they don't take care of the players when they're out of the league. And that includes the players in the league. They don't care about retired players. And I think this is a problem. And I think as the NFL gets more chaotic, as these players get these bigger contracts, there's going to be a small segment of these numbers that are going to increase. Well, first of all, your thoughts on McClain, Rolando, and then your thoughts on the overall situation with players afterwards. I did my last point to you. I did a paper in the 1990s, and I wish I still had it. And at the time, 50% of retired NFL players or players out of the league wound up two ways. 50% with some kind of domestic or violence abuse, and the other 50% broke. Right. You know, so to me, that's what Rolando McClain epitomizes, and something must be done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, there's two whole different conversations that could take place. So cut me off, please. But the first thing is, nothing of what McClain did, from my perspective, is actually a crime. They're what libertarians call victimless crimes, which, if you want to shorten it, it means no crime at all.
No, Big John, I get that.
Right? No, I understand that. I don't want to go too deep into it, but let me just state my belief. Okay, so that's the baseline for me, right?
Right.
Smoking weed, having a weapon, and speeding. The only one maybe is speeding, because you might be endangering others at that point, right? But given the law as it is, yeah, it's kind of stupid to repeatedly be caught for the same crime over and over again. So the possession of weed, most of us find that very trivial. Okay.
Yes. I agree.
Whether even if you're 100% neocon, anti-drug, super religious, anti-drug, however you want to describe it, no matter whatever category of anti-drug you fall in, possession of marijuana with no intent to sell is particularly the most benign. Even the most hardcore.
John, how's it? I'd rather, let's say there's a car driving down the road and okay, that person's drugged out. I'd rather that person had some weed in it than a Xanax.
Oh, or 3 whiskeys. What's more dangerous?
Well, my point is all these anti-drug people, you look at their cabinets, they got all these legal prescription drugs and that some of them are addicted to. So the hypocrisy is truly out of this world in some cases, not all cases.
Right. Now, the gun issue, obviously, I'm a big Second Amendment guy. Everyone should be able to own a firearm. But, you can't complain if you openly flout the law.
Right.
McClain wanted a gun. He didn't have a concealed carry permit. I don't even know if he actually had a permit for the gun. I'm not sure if it was just a concealed carry permit that he was missing or an overall permit. But in either case, you know what the law is. I don't care how long you've been out of, what the law is.
Right. He does. I mean, he's a repeat offender. So of course he knows what the law is. But and people have to take responsibility for
absolutely. That was going to be my final point. It's all on him.
That said, when somebody's hooked on drugs, for example, take weed. I have friends who weed is not a physically addicting drug to the body, but mentally, it's like, dude, stop. You got to go to work. It's you just lose that control. And I think, we always talk about society. It takes a village, et cetera, et cetera. It seems like it takes a village until somebody gets hooked on drugs. Then nobody wants to be near them. And then they go die in a corner somewhere alone. And what about the NFLPA? Do you think they should have a bigger responsibility? And I'm putting this on them, not society, because they're the segment of society.
No, I don't. No. At the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own actions. Yeah. So unless you could convince me that there was some sort of fraud involved, tricked them into doing this, which obviously isn't the case, then no, the NFLPA has no responsibility. It's the same, very analogous to when you see wrestlers die at a young age, right? Pro wrestlers, when they die at a young age, you're like, oh my God, did Vince McMahon pump them full of steroids? Are they being pressured to take somas and whatnot? No, at the end of the day, unless Vince McMahon...
No, they are being pressured, but it's still their decision.
It's their choice. I was going to say, at the end of the day, until Vince McMahon tied you down and injected you physically with steroids, it's not him doing it, it's you doing it. So at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. And that, to me, is the case. So the NFLPA, they have problems. I could talk to you about a lot of different things about them probably, but this isn't one of them. Players either being broke or being or behaving antisocially is not on the NFLPA. It's on the players. That doesn't, please don't take me for a robot. I still feel sad for these players. It's tragic. I do believe in education very strongly. So yes, if we can educate these listen, as far as I know, the NFLPA does conduct these seminars, especially when
they do. Actually, it's not the NFLPA, it's the NFL.
The NFL, okay.
Seminars when it should be the NFLPA. And everybody, I love doing this because sometimes John's a libertarian. I have libertarian aspects that I don't realize may be libertarian at times. But what John is saying is a libertarian belief. We are responsible for ourselves. At the end of the day, it's our decision and we must know what's right. It's nobody else's responsibility to make sure we follow the right path. That's on us. And that's what John's saying. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, there's Big John. Just let him sit in the street and die on his own. Because that's what most people would think. And there is a balance. I agree with you, but I also believe there is a balance. And at the end of the day, though, the one side trying to help the individual may be at wit's end because they tried everything. So I would assume the NFLPA probably has a division department or something to deal with this, and maybe they are doing the right thing. But I agree with you. But I think when we're talking this much money, this et cetera, they have a responsibility to seek these players out and try to help them. Only because these players are destroying their bodies, and we now know a lot about CTE. I agree with you, but I think certain industry segments should try to do a little bit more. And that said, I'm not saying the NFLPA is not doing that.
Right.
Perception-wise, it seems to me they are. But let's move on.
I just want very quickly. I want to touch on 10 seconds only. I promise, because I know we're on a schedule today. You said everything correctly except for libertarians don't mind if people die in the street. It's exactly.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I said that's what people.
That's what people think. Okay.
As they're hearing you talk, they're thinking, "Man, this guy wants to just let him die in the street." Honestly, John, that's a reason why I get frustrated at your party. I'm like, because how you said it is how y'all always say it. I'm like, and y'all wonder why you can't get a damn vote in an election.
Well,
seriously, that's a big reason.
Well, plug for my big questions with Big John. We have a big wig in the Libertarian Party coming on for an interview where I actually address that issue with him. But so we'll help those people out. But just to let you know, we believe in people helping each other. So it's not up to the NFLPA to help Rolando McClain. It's up to his family, his friends, anybody who knows him, and any of us. And I've been through this.
And give me 10 seconds here. Before the 60s, and the government tried to take control of every type of charity through by creating laws so they couldn't function, he would have had help. The church was like 60 or 70 or 80% of all givings came through a form or fashion of the church, and the government purposely ended that by regulating the hell out of it. So our own government is hurting our own ability to help one another, as you said, the individual helping the individual.
As usual.
All right, let's move on. Oh God, all right, that's so true. Let's move on. Our favorite, you either love him or hate him. I used to hate him. I've come to love it. He's just so out there, but he's so real, and that is Marshawn Lynch.
Yep.
However, our bad boy Marshawn Lynch was a little bit asleep, car damage, and arrested. He looked so out of it. He was in Las Vegas, was asleep, smelled of alcohol when Las Vegas police found him in his damaged sports car, and they arrested him on suspicion of driving while intoxicated, according to an arrest report. Now, that said, John, this segment, it's a two-tier segment. First of all, Marshawn Lynch, but second of all, Las Vegas. Let's start with Las Vegas first. Las Vegas is indeed the city of sin. As an ex-sailor, going to the city of the sin as a single man, what's happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. And the problem is, in today's society, that's no longer the case with surveillance cameras, et cetera. And Lynch was a problem with that. He went to the city, party, got drunk, got caught. But here's what people don't realize, and you have to go online, and maybe Big John can find a pic and pop it up there during the podcast, during the editing process. His car, beautiful car, it was on rims. One of the tires was on the rim.
It was destroyed.
And I'm like, dude, the car's parked in the parking lot. What's the road look like? Getting that spot. And sure enough, there was a trail of litter. First of all, obviously Marshawn Lynch did something stupid that we've all done. Right. But at the age of 30, I was stupid until my early, till about 24, 25. Then I woke up, and that happens a lot. He's in his 30s. Again, going to the NFLPA, the NFL, they don't seem to do a good job of educating these people into the ways of life. What do you think of Las Vegas, the city of sin, and the fact that they are now housing a professional team? And before they got the Raiders, those doors were always closed because you can't have a professional team in the city of sin. We saw what happened with the Rebels and Tarkanians. Even though nothing was proven, the mob was talking to the players, and Tark was always fighting that. So what are your thoughts if first the city of sin housing a professional team, and then Marshawn Lynch stupidity?
Well, there's a lot in all that, but so Vegas in general, I love just because for the most part, it kind of gives you the illusion of freedom, of personal liberty. I say illusion because it's still super regulated in Vegas, but at least some of the facade of things like prostitution, gambling, drinking for the most part.
Hold on, John. Prostitution is not legal within the city of Las Vegas.
Within right,
Yeah.
but if you go to Vegas, you're in.
It's
You
a
could
taxi
very
cab drive to Bunny Ranch or whatever it's
yeah,
called.
yeah,
Chicken Ranch,
yeah.
whatever it's
Like
called.
Reno's not that far, but you know what I mean. I'm saying that area. Let me rephrase that. The area of Las Vegas. So um, so on that sense, I love it. On the other sense, again, you have to be a responsible adult when you go to Vegas, right? Like so. Not Kamara, Marshawn Lynch should have known better, absolutely. But here's a case where even a libertarian says that guy should be in jail because he was presenting a danger to someone other than himself by driving drunk, and
drugs,
or drugs, or even if he was just sleepy. Like the cause of it is irrelevant to me. It's just that he was driving on rims. Like, first of all, how messed up are you that as you're driving, I don't know if people realize this. I'm sure you do. If you're driving on rims, it's not like a smooth ride.
no.
There's sparks flying all over the place. At night, it would light up like a Christmas tree around the cars you're driving. It would look like a comet entering the atmosphere. And the reports were saying, like, you could see grooves on the sidewalks on people's property, from where he drove over. Not purposely, obviously, but destroying personal property. So there's no libertarian, there's no anarchist on the planet that would sit back and justify or say he shouldn't be punished. Marshawn Lynch should be in jail, and he should also be paying restitution for all the property he destroyed. That's beyond dispute.
Yeah. Early on, the first report that I read said that the police came up and they found him on the curb sitting. And I remember telling you, well, he's going to get off. And I know that for a fact because I know a few sailors that have destroyed neighborhoods so hammered they're sideswiping cars, literally passing out as they get to their apartment. And then when the cops come knocking on the door, one guy had the audacity to go, "That wasn't me." I mean, I had come in and I was like, "Dude, what happened here?" And he goes, "Wasn't me, wasn't me." We all knew it was him, but that's what he told the cops. And cops couldn't do anything. But the fact he was behind the wheel, it's kind of funny. Had he made it, a foot over and just fallen out of the car, he could have pleaded, "I wasn't in the car." But you're right. There is no excuse for this. I hope he doesn't have a drinking problem.
Right.
He's having a phenomenal second career with his commercials. I don't think he'll ever be an analyst or anything of that sort.
No, he doesn't have the voice for it. He's not a good speaker, but look, I've loved Marshawn Lynch as a player ever since he was with the Bills. People forget that he had a career with the Buffalo Bills, right? But I saw him back then. I loved his style because I've always liked the big bruising running backs more than the shifty guys.
Cowbell. That's true cowbell.
Yeah, like the old Earl Campbell, Larry Zonka's been my favorite player
you get
forever.
Hit, you're gonna hurt.
Yeah. But this is inexcusable. He should have never done it. Vegas is what it is. Now, as to whether Vegas should have teams, look, we're kidding ourselves if we think that teams in New York and Chicago aren't approached by the mob. You're
right, John, but we're talking, this is, in every major city.
Yes, absolutely.
There is that. But this is Vegas.
Agreed.
This is I mean, renowned city throughout the world because it's so different. It's like a sailor going to the Philippines or the Caribbean. No, hold on. Meaning the ugliest virgin kid is going to wind up with the most beautiful girl wanting a ticket to the States, and y'all get offended to go screw yourself because that's how it works most of the time. There is love. Yeah, but and my point being, that's what Vegas does to the individual. You go there, you're treated like a king, queen, beautiful women, as long as you have money. All right. So let's hope for the best for Marshawn Lynch. I personally think Vegas is not good for professional teams, but if I had to say yay or nay, I say yay because it's a private business.
Yep.
It's kind of like that parent. I'm going to let you do this, son, but you're going to learn the hard way. Don't come crying to daddy.
And what's more perfect than the Raiders being the first NFL team in Vegas? It's perfect.
Well, I guess more perfect would be if Al Davis was alive.
Right.
Dude, his son is like that ugly redheaded stepchild, and I literally mean that. He's an ugly redhead. All right. I have a friend who owns a bar in Palm Desert or Palm Springs. I always get the two confused, and a stream of famous people go through there, and he's one of them who is a regular visitor. All right. One of my favorite players. I was disappointed. Oh, final note, you're right. The first article I read on Marshawn Lynch, it said former Buffalo Bills RP, and I'm like, it didn't hit me. Like, all right. On the Frank Gore, one of my favorite players, dragged naked by her hair in Atlantic City, incident. Can you fill us in a little bit on that one, Big John?
Yeah, this is one of those weird ones. So Frank Gore, one of the greatest running backs in NFL history, 16,000 yards rushing over 16 years. That's pretty damn impressive, no matter how you slice it.
2 ACL injuries.
Yeah, coming out of college, from a football perspective, no one should have your respect more than Frank Gore. That's all there is to it. And from every report we've ever heard, a great teammate, a great mentor. As he got older, he never got jealous. He always helped the next young guy come along. So, like, if you're an NFL owner, the perfect player to have on your team at any stage of their career was Frank Gore. So let's get that out of the way. Super player. He's transitioned to become a pro boxer at the age of 39, 40. So much like Herschel,
one exhibition.
Right, but he's training to be a boxer, right? So much like Herschel Walker transitioning to MMA, cage fighting after he retired, some of these guys, even like Bo Jackson to some extent, just born athletes, born sportsmen, born alpha males, any way you want to say it. These people are just not going to stop moving until they die, basically, right?
Well, so yeah, I mean, it's in their blood. They can't let go. I mean, let's be honest. They are at an elite level, so logic would dictate, even when they're forced out of the league,
right,
their athleticism and skills are still much better than some youngsters who don't have the ability to make it that far. So I think that's why it's happening now. Let's be honest. 99% of these athletes in baseball, basketball, or football that and it's always seems to be, it used to be boxing. Now it's MMA and boxing. It's like they get shellacked. I mean, a reminder to the audience, Nate Robinson was one of the worst beatdowns I've ever seen. And to make it worse, it shows the art of boxing. If you look at that hit that Nate Robinson knocked him out, it looked like it barely kind of tapped him, because it's so fast.
Right.
And that's what makes it impressive. The first time I saw somebody knocked out while they're falling was
he was out before he hit the ground. Yeah, no
Tyson did the marvelous Frazier, and Nate. It's like Logan Paul or Jake Paul, two goes, hold my beer, I'll do it better. So he's 1-0 in exhibition. He's got his first professional fight coming on. He is being charged with simple assault. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish. No. Go ahead.
I was going to say what's interesting is he's being charged with simple assault. But after I've read what I've read, and again, I'm only privy to what's been made public. I'm not sure what he did or how he did it or what level this escalated to, because initially when police were called, the police didn't even arrest him. Right. They didn't even do the thing where they remove him from the room. For people that don't know, most calls for domestic abuse or violence, even the initial ones that pan out not to have been any sort of abuse, the first thing cops are trained to do is remove the male from the environment, whether it's sexist or not. By the way, I don't hear feminists complaining about that. The first thing they do is they take the men out of the situation. Even if it's their own home, even if it's the man's apartment or the man's house, the first thing they do is they take the man away until they figure out what's going on.
He dragged her by the hair. He went caveman. I'm picturing Gore with his 49ers and a big old club dragging her. But
the point is they didn't make any arrests and they didn't take him out of the situation. And the police report said no visible injuries of any kind on the woman. So it was a couple of weeks later that they decided to charge him with simple assault. Now, I don't know what that means. Like, to your point, was it that he physically harmed her? Was it what back in the Bronx we used to call goon arming? If you've ever goon armed a woman, like if she's hysterical, you just kind of put one arm under her armpit and the other one on her elbow, and you just kind of steer her away from a situation. Like, technically, I guess that might be simple assault, but I think all of us would view that as, not to sound crazy here, but I don't know.
Because remember Kareem Hunt? I mean, he decked the woman, but the woman was coming. And the reason I got so mad at society, I was like, look, okay, I agree. You don't deck him like he did, but she was attacking him.
Yes, I remember that incident.
With society.
Yeah.
A woman can come at you with a knife, a gun, or whatever, and if you defend yourself, you're at fault. Yeah. So I have issues with that, but that's not related. But in terms of your goon army, maybe it was something like that. I just can't picture. I don't think we'll know until October when he starts his court appearances. But this simple assault, they keep saying woman, so I'm assuming it wasn't somebody he was related to in the sense girlfriend, right, wife, or whatnot. But another retired player, another dumb, idiotic move. He's having not as good as Mr. Marshawn Lynch, but he's kept his name alive. And people
Right.
realize this: for retired athletes to still continue being in the limelight, that's important to them. That's their ego. Think of a gladiator in the Roman Colosseum, 50,000 in the adulation. That's what those players live for. They
Right.
love a camera. They love attention. It's
Right.
part of who they are. It's not good or bad. It's just who they are. You know, I want to say I wish Frank Gore the best because I love him so much because of everything he's come through. But I just hope that right comes out of all this. Because again, doesn't matter if you like him, love him, hate him, or whatnot. People need to be held responsible.
Agreed. If you've assaulted someone, that's all there is to it. Again, there's no defense to that. The only defense is self-defense, right? If you claim someone was attacking you or threatening you, that's the only situation where violence, in my opinion, is warranted. But to your point, I'm going to wait to hear what happens because I just don't know the description and then the charges and then they don't all necessarily add up. So I'm going to wait to hear what happens.
All right, I don't want to. This is a very deep topic here, but I don't want to spend the deep topic on it because everybody's talked it out. I wanted to briefly discuss the fact that in the Dolphin Flores issue where Flores accused the Dolphins of racism, of tanking, of it, he threw the kitchen sink at him, and it turns out none of it was true. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna say it wasn't true. It wasn't as he said it, and but the aftermath saw that the NFL, oh gosh, I'm trying to blank here, removed Stephen Ross from the ability to act as owner along with his number one for about a year. They suspended him, first round pick taken, I believe. But the real issue that I'm still hearing from my friends is, well, how come Tom Brady and Sean Payton aren't getting in trouble for tampering? And that was my first thought. I was like, hold on, you got Stephen Ross, you got his number one Beal, but you've done nothing to Sean Payton and Tom Brady. And I think that rule has to change. But John, it's a rule. The parties being taught you or whatever, as long as the players, they can't be touched. What's your take on this? And should Sean Payton and Tom Brady have some responsibility of guilt in the punishment? Before you answer, I think they do because those were two parties engaging in illegal shenanigans. What's your take?
Probably you're not going to agree with me. I don't think Payton or Brady, especially Payton, if he wasn't an employee of the NFL, if he wasn't,
yes, he still is.
Okay, so he's still. Oh, right, he's still.
He's under contract.
He's under contract with the Saints. You're right. Okay,
that's right.
So, what I was going to say is I don't understand what tampering means, because in any other business, look, you and I both ran companies before, William. You always know that if you develop some young talent, someone else is going to come hire them away from you.
True.
Try.
One caveat: when you're still under contract, because I was, you get that non-compete. We're paying you. You can't work for or talk to anybody else. That is very common in the city world.
Yes.
So look at that's what Sean Payton pretty much is under. You know,
right.
And Tom Brady. But he
under whose contract though? So that to me, that's a legal distinction, right? Is it up to
the NFL? Is
it the NFL or is it the teams? Right? Because there's a difference.
Well, no, there's not. They both follow the same rules, but it is a distinct difference.
Right. I'm saying there is a difference. So from the NFL's perspective, which is what I think happened here, there's two possibilities. One is, Stephen Ross tried to tamper with these players, but they were not the ones who initiated it, and they rebuffed all the nonsense, right? That could be one explanation.
No. We don't know if they rebuffed the nonsense.
No, I'm saying could be an explanation as to why they didn't get punished. The second thing is, players have to look. The truth of the matter is, unless they enter formal negotiations, people are always talking. What do you think when there's a party and there's two players from different teams in the same room?
John,
they're not trying to recruit each other.
No, there is no formal negotiations of that because it's either they likely agreed to all this in the informal, and once the first step is made, it's kind of one and done. You know, they're going to bring the coach over, bring Brady over. You know, it's not like this long-term process. It's all done. This is kind of like a bookie. You know, it's like you're making your bet their bookie. You know, everybody accepts it, but it's illegal. I guess my issue here, because some of my friends are right. They're Brady haters. I used to be a Brady hater. I'm no longer Brady. I actually admire the guy, 7 rings every 6th round, et cetera, et cetera. but they're kind of telling, well, why does Brady always get away with it? And there may be some truth to it.
Oh,
what
sure.
If this wasn't Brady? What if it was a Roland McClain type guy?
Yeah.
And that's my issue with that. But that said, the rule is there, so nothing would have happened to those guys. But I believe the rule should be changed. Why? Because if they were punishing Payton and Brady as I believe they should have, do you think the next time a conversation like this happens, the players are going to go, bro, stop. You want to get suspended for 2 years. This is the Cleveland Browns owner. The FBI's all over him. He's not the brightest owner in the in the shed. So I'm a firm believer. People learn by seeing what happens to others.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is that they are exempt from that, and I hope this rule changes, but I really don't see it changing much. And 5 seconds. Final comment.
Yeah, let the teams handle it. I wouldn't get the league involved. In other words, you made a good point about non-competes. Let each team enforce their own non-competes. Each non-compete has a punishment of
you can't in the NFL because the way the league's structured. That's
the way I do
it. Actually, they're doing it right. If you're a chapter and something serious happens, national is going to get involved and view the NFL as the national chapter over the 32. I mean, the national.
So the NFL acts as an arbitrator. The NFL acts as an arbitrator in that case.
That's what they hired. So owners have hired the commissioner actually to be that type of person.
Fair enough. Then that's the way they should handle it. That way it would vary from case to case, right? It would depend on each individual
player. But that does not work in society. As a business owner, you know good and well that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we could sit there and distinguish, say, a bonus to one employee who was great and not give one to the other because they all suck. That judges have changed that, excuse me, through their stupidity. And now, when I would give a gift, I'd have to give the same gift to everybody, the worst of the lot or the best of the lot. So society doesn't work like a libertarian wants it to. Is my point. Okay, Aqib Talib. Aqib Talib is retired, great player, potential Hall of Famer. I'm not quite sure if he is. I remember watching him, and I love watching him, and he could cover quite a bit of the NFL. But when it came to elite players, it was never a given with him as well. But he had greater talent than the average quarterback, and he's retired, just got signed by Amazon to be part of the Thursday Night Football team. And his brother, at a youth football game where he was at, shoots and kills another individual. At first, Talib's name was out of it, except for the fact that he was the brother.
Right.
Then it came out that he was there. Then it came out that he may have started it. And that's some serious ramifications beyond stupidity. We're talking the loss of a human life. And Jason Whitlock has kind of broken the story quite a bit. And it's still in the newness of it. And there's still a lot more to come out. But John, your thoughts, again, maybe a little bit of a repeat tale, but what is Talib thinking in that situation?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know what started it means. I don't know if you have any extra information than I do, but what does started it mean? Did he get into a verbal thing and then his brother stepped in to sort of end it physically?
And that's just it. Some of it's still coming out right now. What we know, they're viewing Talib as being in the middle of the fight, and this was in Texas. It was this past Saturday in which the coach was fatally shot, and video, because of the society we live in, came out afterwards, and the coach was fatally shot. And Talib's brother, I think his name is I forget my pronouncing, Aqib. YAQ, so I think UB, so Aqib turned himself in, and it showed that moments before the coach was killed. It says that showed the station also reported that witnesses identified Aqib Talib in the footage as wearing a hat and white sneakers. Multiple witnesses said Talib was the one who started the brawl, apparently due to being upset about referees, according to WFAA, and that's the issue I have. When you allow parents to sit there and scream and yell, and we've seen the stories over the last 20, 30 years, it started with complaining, yelling, then it started to escalating, then it started to physical fights. Now it's gone to referees just stopping and quitting, and they go home and the game's unfinished. Now we're talking dead people. You see how, so when society lets things escalate, this is what happens. And to me, this is the problem with progressivism. So there's nothing. People say conservatives, y'all don't want change. No, it's not that we don't want change. Is if the law's working, why change it? Oh, we have to have compassion. Well, tell that to the family who now has to go and pay for a funeral of somebody who was taken too soon. So I look at this whole Talib issue as a societal issue. And based on what I said, what's your take? But more importantly, should he keep that Amazon Prime gig?
Well, from my general answer to all your questions are there's no such thing as societal crimes. There's no such thing as
no, I didn't say societal crimes. No. I'm saying how society allows things to go too far.
Okay.
And actually, John, there is society crime. If you kill somebody, that's a crime.
No, that's a crime, but it's not society's fault that you killed someone. You killed someone. So that's what I meant. And should he lose his gig? I don't know. Look, if I'm Amazon Prime, here's what I do. I keep him. He's signed to a contract. I'm sure there's an out. Now with Amazon, it's going to be a little difficult because they don't really have much to go on in terms of established ratings, right? They just had, what was it, Thursday Night Football last year, I think?
It's streaming, John, but for the fact that they came hard with so much money, it must have been a big success.
Right. But they're making a big move. I know they signed Kay Adams away from the NFL Network, right? So to them, it should really look from Amazon's perspective. It's what they think improves their bottom line. So I can't speak to that. Is there any quote moral obligation to fire him? No, not at all. He didn't commit a crime, as far as I know. Until he does.
Hold on. Well, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the law, but I always hear accessory. If he got the fight started and going, and it was over the score. It was over the score.
Well, an accessory to a crime means you didn't commit the crime, but you helped the person who did commit the crime
and
commit
that's what
the
I'm
crime.
Wondering, will a prosecutor try to? I have no idea.
So an accessory to the crime in this case, I'll give you a totally made up scenario, would be if Aqib Talib held the guy down and his brother stabbed him. That's an accessory to a crime.
Hold on. No, you're right. But you're also an accessory to a crime if you're away from it, if you knew they were going to murder somebody. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Hold on. Here's a better one.
Right.
You're an accessory to the crime, even if you didn't break into the car, but it was stolen and you got in afterwards. So it's
there's an accessory after the fact. There's an accessory. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of definitions, but all of them involve somehow aiding the criminal to commit the crime. It also could potentially involve conspiracy. Did they plot to kill this guy?
Well, no, there was no plotting. But
I'm saying there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities, is what I'm saying.
Fled. So the question is where was Aqib when the brother fled?
I don't know. That's for judges and police and judges and lawyers to sort out, right? I'm saying as of right now, I'm not willing to pin, from what I understand, and it's limited, the murder of this person, which is tragic, on Aqib Talib. I'm not willing to do that.
I'm not neither. But what I'm saying is I have a problem when somebody is big and famous because that commands. It doesn't mean you respect them. No, that tends to command. He's on a football field, youth football. They're going to look at Talib and whatever he says is godlike to them because he's a professional Super Bowl winning defensive back, So again, that's my issues with libertarians. It's always black and white when life is not black and white. So, but that said, I'm not condemning him, but I'm like, he had the power to stop this before it began, and yet he was one who started it. Now that said, it's not Talib's fault. Or maybe it is. Did he know?
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Either way, it's an ugly situation, and it's one that we're going to have to wait because when you look at that video, it was chaotic. But to me, it's just another ugly incident at a youth football game because the adults act like children of 5-6 years old. All right, we've had some famous people pass away. I just want to touch on them briefly. Ivana Trump, icon. She was the pre-2016 Trump, part of the high society pages of New York City in the 70s and 80s. Real quick, John, your thoughts on Ivana, and may she rest in peace is what I assume you're going to say as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's tragic the way that she passed away. Basically, she fell at her age. It always, when you're young, it always sounds so crazy. You mean you could die from falling in your apartment?
Hell,
when you're young.
Can't get up.
Yeah.
we
when you're
make
young,
fun
you
of
think
that.
that. When you're young, you think that. You start hitting 50 and over. Yeah, look, you trip and your knee hurts for 6 months afterwards at 50. You know what I mean? So it is tragic. I don't know if I'd use the word icon with her. She was certainly a socialite when she married Donald Trump.
Oh no, John. I was in North Carolina at the time in the 70s and 80s. I mean, Ivana Trump was nationally known as
Yes, she was. She
Trump.
was nationally known.
And
Yes.
pop culture that's what pop culture is all about. Andy Warhol in the 60s, Trump in the 70s, Gilligan's Island in the 60s. That's what, and that's where I kind of view them. But anyway, Ivana Trump, rest in peace. You led a magnificent life. You lived the American dream. Now, people may hate you for your version of the American dream, but I'm sorry. Before we got into these 700-pound gorillas who are as perfect as Jesus Christ is behind their computers, the lifestyle they led is what Americans wanted. Remember the 80s? Greed is good. Greed is not good, but wanting to better your life and live in a way that you dream of, fantasize, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what keeps us going and moving forward as humans, like it or not. Star Trek. It's been a little while, but we haven't given our due to Nichelle Nichols. Dude, I had a crush on her. I mean, actually, it wasn't that I had a crush on her. Being prepubescent, it was how short the skirts were and her body. And being Latino, we love curvy women. Now, I'm not trying to sexualize her, but as a kid, when I saw Nichelle Nichols in that outfit on the bridge, I was just a dog in heat looking at her, But she trailblazed. She trailblazed for Black women. She trailblazed for women. Now, they're going over the top with her trailblazing in terms of the role she played and the scenes and time. But the fact she was in that position is the trailblazing that I'm referring to in breaking barriers. And I congratulate her for that. I congratulate her for always having a kind heart, and you hear nothing but good stories with her and how she treated her fans at the conventions. And she's left us, but she didn't leave us too soon. She was 89 years old, led a vibrant life, made her mark, God rest her soul, and may her next journey be everything she ever could dream of happening in the afterlife. Your thoughts, John?
Actually, she's one I would use the word iconic with, because I think people underestimate how much of a trailblazer she was. Because first of all, she was part of the first interracial kiss on American television.
Oh, that's right.
People don't realize that when her and Shatner had a kiss, that was like earth-shattering at the time. It had never been seen on American television, probably in the movies at some point, but not on television.
In the movies, yes, because the next famous one around the same time was Roger Moore with the model who was playing the role in his first James Bond movie. But you're right,
Diane Carroll. I'm not sure, but
Live and Let Die, I think.
Yeah, but Nichelle Nichols, in that sense, was very iconic, very trailblazing, and there's this story that she used to like to tell that she was thinking of quitting because it was very rough for her on the set, supposedly. And of all people, Martin Luther King walked up to her and said, "What you're doing is inspiring our people. You can't quit. You have to hang on for the rest of us." And supposedly she was so moved by someone like Dr. King saying her that she decided to stay for the full run of the show. So yes, a trailblazer, yes, super iconic, and yes, very much part of the dreams of every young boy or teenager who ever saw Star Trek. A, because of the outfit. B, she was a very attractive, curvy woman. And when you put it all together, you're absolutely right. Iconic and trailblazing, no doubt.
I'm just thinking that was such a sexualized show, and how
of course it was.
Women. But
listen, as progressive as Gene Roddenberry was in his political views and everything, you talk to any women, including Majel Barrett, who was she played Nurse Chapel. She was in the later Star Trek things. She was his wife in real life.
Right.
She said there was no bigger poonhound on the face of the planet than Gene Roddenberry, and often mean to women too.
Well, he slept with Nichelle Nichols, and
with all of them,
when they asked him about it, she said, she pretty much had one word. He's like, voracious, or something like his sexual appetite
just
knew
no bounds.
And I'm like, whoa, But all right, John, let's close it out with next episode. I want to go deeper as the picks go on, because the draft is happening right now for the Fantasy Experts League. It's called FanEx. a little bit about FanEx, and then next episode, we're going to go more in depth with your actual draft. But my former company was part of FanEx. We actually won the draft where you just draft and you let the you don't
Best
do
ball.
everything. Best ball, but you're not in the best ball. You're in there every daily, correct? So first of all, tell us about FanEx, a little bit about its history, and then why hasn't it gotten as big as it should have gotten or should be?
Yeah, so FanEx brief history, which if you watch the Big Question with Big John episode featuring Greg Kellogg, who is a fantasy sports Hall of Fame inductee, one of the originals. FanEx, OG. FanEx stands for Fantasy Experts League, and it was first created by Greg Kellogg and Joe Bryant. Joe Bryant is with footballguys.com, the founder of footballguys.com. They founded the league, and it was by invitation only. It grew out of the old news groups. We're talking about the mid 90s. This is before Web 2.0, even before Web 1.0, where the main action for fantasy football occurred on what used to be news groups, postings. There was no visuals, no back and forth in terms of interactive. So FanEx back in the day became a way, and Greg's vision was initially half experts, half super fans. And every year the super fans part would change. The winner would stay. They would invite a couple of other guys. And eventually what happened was the super fans became experts, and they became part of the industry by becoming writers or whatever, right? So, and FanEx in the mid to late 90s was a prestigious thing. I mean, it took me from Sports Grumblings about 7 years to get in, because you had to wait for an opening. Someone had to quit or retire. Unfortunately, in some cases, people passed away. Openings came up on the teams, and then there was this nomination process, just like a Hall of Fame. The existing members had to nominate someone they felt deserved a spot. No. So I got in about 7-8 years in. In the beginning, it was super, super influential, but I think it was more closely associated with the magazines as opposed with the internet. So typically when you got your FanEx league results, you read it in the magazine early in the summer, back when you used to run to the newsstand, you know.
That did change quickly, because during the first draft in Vegas, they were a featured expert league draft in the first couple of seminars in the late 90s. And do you think their independence is what killed them? Meaning they were unto themselves.
Part of it, yeah.
I mean, I had issues with some of the personalities there. And if I remember correctly, don't quote, it got to a point I said, we're done. You know, we were. It's not that we were bigger than them. It's. I saw the writing on the wall. And I personally felt some of the personalities were hampering its natural growth. And it was kind of a turnoff for me in that moment in time, not looking at the bigger picture and what it was, but being a little bit selfish in that. Well, what are your thoughts there?
Well, it was never run as a business, which was its downfall. So it was run as a prestige thing, but it was almost run as a prestige thing for the industry. Meaning, like, if you were an insider and you're like, man, I got invited to compete against Kellogg and Ryan Houston and William Del Pilar and Joe Bryant and all these guys, you know, of the top sites, the top experts, and you were competing against them. And I'm in the regular draft, which means you play out the season. I think I've won the championship once or twice. I forget.
What round is it drafted right now?
Right now, and it's a slow email draft. It's in round 18.
Oh, perfect. So next episode will be
done. I'll give you my whole thing. I did go unconventional this year, just to let people know. So I'm trying a new strategy because I don't have my stats with me. I'm not in the grind anymore. But the point being that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have to say this in the audience. So John sends me his first pick just out of the blue. I didn't realize he was in the league. Yeah. And I'm not going to say who it is, but when he sends me the pick, I go, you do realize this is happening right now, in the sense of something else was affecting that pick, indirectly, but they were connected. And it's just so classic. You make the pick, and then you find something out that just happened, and you're like, really? Well, why do you have to ruin my day when I'm on cloud nine with the pick? Man, so your final comments on that there, Big John, before we close it out.
Yeah, I think not that they're a downfall because it's still going on, but where it didn't get to the height that I think you're referring to is it never made that final business decision, it was never run by a marketer. It was always run by a football guy, a
non-business
journalist,
guy at
not a
times.
business or a marketer. Whereas someone should have incorporated FanEx, whoever, like Greg and Joe, if they haven't, they should incorporate and trademark it.
And Joe's not dumb. He runs a successful business. I think a successful family business.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Him and David Dodds built football guys up into something big. So it's
But
not
for
like
whatever reason, between Greg and Joe, they never made it a business. I'm not even saying that they didn't try to. I'm saying the result was it never became, like, for example, it should have been associated with the NFL Network or Sportsline or ESPN or something like that.
That's just it. Ownership. That's what they didn't want to give up. In mind, that's what I saw. They were a close knit group. Even some of us brought in later were never insiders. We're always the outsiders, and that's fine because that's how I do a lot of expert leagues.
Right.
It just seemed as there's a lot of egos leading FanEx, and they didn't want to see the bigger picture of what it could and should be, and they left it. Like, for example, when I think we pulled out. And I can't remember, so long ago, I immediately realized, well, that's not the best decision to make here. Take a step back from the personal issues you may have, and nothing bad. It's just like, come on, at times. Right. But it's still going, and that's phenomenal. And if it's still going, that means down the road, maybe it does have that opening, because it is to me the league. And you're right, the FSGA now, before the FSCA, now the FSGA, they got smart. They're promoting their own expert leagues. And I see the FSGA expert league as eventually becoming the dominant. But the thorn in the side will be FanEx if they ever decide to up the prestige of that league on a grander scale. And with that, John, I'll give you the final word on FanEx.
Yeah, FanEx. Look, I enjoy being in it simply because I know a lot of the people. But I'll be the first to tell you, the league is getting older. Like, a lot of folks are our age, William, in their mid to late 50s.
They need new blood.
If not older, they need to bring in some of the young pups. They started to do that as many of us have retired or slowed down. Like Greg, for example, retired from FanEx several years ago, and I think he might be in one of the leagues this year, because they have several leagues. They have the full play, the analysis draft, which is best ball, and they also have an auction league, which is completely, a full auction league. So we'll see what happens, but to me, that is the next path. It's hopefully will happen. We'll see.
One final question. Is there a website people can go to check it out? Maybe we can put it on the screen at the bottom when the segment comes up.
Yeah, I'll throw it up there, but I think it's FanEx football, and then I'll throw up one of the draft leagues. You could go to myfantasyleague.com. We have the draft set up there. So they can actually follow it there.
And that's part of the problem of why their prestige hasn't grown. They've not followed through with a good website, things of that nature. But that said, it's still fantasy football. We're hot in the season. It's a lot of fun. Today was a bit of a more serious episode with the police blotter, as I like to call it. But we got to talk about FanEx. We got to wish some people a good send-off. People who, and real quick, 2 more people who did pass away, Leave It the Beavers, Tony Dow, everybody knows, and Pat Carroll. Nobody knows.
I didn't know.
Pat Carroll, nobody knows, but she was famous in her time. And my whole point is, fame is fleeting. Live in the moment. Appreciate those who you love, because the adulation will go away once you're no longer in front of the camera.
Very true.
And with that, John, everyone, you have been listening. Oh, rest in peace. Yeah. You all have been listening to Points on the Board. If you listen to us, you found us either on Rumble or through Sports Grumblings or through YouTube. And we thank you for your support. We hope you share. And until next time, I bid everyone adieu. Good night, John.
Good night, everyone. And don't forget, we're also on all the podcasting platforms. So Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. Find us there too. Not just YouTube and Rumble. Everywhere you can find us. And after that, good night, everyone.